Okay, today I want to paint a sort of picture for everyone about the current state of AI technology, not because I don't think it's dangerous, it most certainly is, or that it won't have an outsized impact on various different career fields, because it will, with likely insane levels of consequence, by the way, but more so because the current state of the industry when it comes to startup companies is kind of hilarious. Let me begin with this sort of foundation narrative building, you could call it. In March of 2019, which doesn't seem that long ago on paper, but in the world of technology is rather substantial, British venture capital firm MMC conducted a survey of 2,830 European startups that are officially classified as AI companies. What's interesting about that, however, is that only 1,580 of those companies were found to have any evidence of actually working in the field, while the remaining 1,250, which is about 40% of the entire group, probably had nothing to do with it. This was a two-dimensional problem at the time. First, because some of the startups were obviously pretending to have AI relevance, capitalizing on hype. But second, and more importantly, because even financial analysts were misclassifying companies as AI related, even when they were not in fact related in the slightest, quote, possibly because AI companies attract higher investments, end quote. See the problem? Obviously, this particular research is based in Europe, but 40% of startup companies being misclassified as AI based when they actually have nothing to do with it, likely for the purpose of attracting higher investment, that's an issue, and it's probably not all that different here in America either. Except, why don't we go one step further? Instead of focusing on companies that obviously have nothing to do with AI, yet still classify themselves or get classified by analysts as being AI-centric, why don't we turn and focus on a very much not uncommon situation where companies that seem to be well positioned in the world of AI development or adoption are simply lying about it? Of course, everyone saw the title, so let's dig into the reality of AI being actually Indian workers. The biggest and most recent example of this, but trust me, there's many more, is a company called builder.ai, supposedly leveraging a combination of human workers and AI language models with extreme emphasis placed on the technology side of things. Builder.ai positioned itself as a $1.5 billion Microsoft-backed startup. They had this virtual assistant called Natasha, which would supposedly help people build software applications. But in June of 2025, after a creditor seized something like $37 million from their bank account as a result of poor financial performance, the world suddenly found out that no, Builder.ai was not some clever use of technology. It was instead about 700 to 1,000 workers from India pretending to be chatbots. Digging a little bit deeper, the writing was on the wall for this company for about 5 or 6 years beforehand. All the way back in 2019, when the company was known as Engineer.ai, the Wall Street Journal reported, quote, startup Engineer.ai says it uses artificial intelligence technology to largely automate the development of mobile apps, but several current and former employees say the company exaggerates its AI capabilities to attract customers and investors, end quote. That's basically a 6-year premonition of what would ultimately destroy the company, seeing as they've now entered bankruptcy proceedings. But when a $1.5 billion startup, backed by Microsoft, goes belly up for faking the entire premise of their AI technology, instead using human workers, it requires the question to be asked, how many more companies are doing this? Answer, a lot of them are doing it. And if we think of the entire industry right now, not only are nearly 40% of AI startups being inaccurately classified in the first place for the purpose of attracting undeserved investment, the remaining companies that aren't might very well be faking it. Let's use another example. Pretty much all of the world's largest companies are actively developing their own AI models. Think Apple, Google, Microsoft, etc. But one company in particular, Amazon in this case, is where I want to focus. Amazon is primarily an online e-commerce, cloud computing, and shipping company, but they also have a very specific small retail offering called Just Walk Out technology. Reading from the company's own website, quote, Just Walk Out eliminates traditional checkout lines, creating a seamless shopping experience. Using advanced AI, sensors, computer vision, and RFID, Just Walk Out accurately tracks item selection and automates payment when shoppers exit the store, end quote. That's pretty cool on its face, right? Walk in, do your shopping, walk out, and the AI takes care of everything else. It's a nightmare in terms of privacy, but it's a benefit in terms of convenience, which most people are happy to accept as a trade. However, come to find out, first reported by The Information, Just Walk Out was largely reliant, as in about 70% of all orders, on human workers in India, who would physically watch what customers picked up or walked out with on some sort of feed presumably, and verify the orders that way. Once again, revolutionary AI technology was just a bunch of low-paid overseas workers. A couple years later, Amazon began moving towards something called dash carts, which would detect whatever item you physically put in your cart and make checkouts easier that way. But the point I'm trying to make is that dash carts don't have advanced AI technology and computer vision. It's just a scanner system that replaces the checkout counter. That's 2 examples so far, but next one is by far my favorite. So let me just play a news clip for you real fast.
Hi, what can I make fresh for you today?
AI is here in the valley and it's looking to take your order.
What else?
The new system is reliable. So it's there 24/7 and it really helps.
In partnership with Presto Automation, Carl's Jr. is bringing out artificial intelligence to take orders at drive-thrus, with one of the first locations in the country being in Buckeye.
Okay, so AI partnership for takeout orders, Presto, the company, and Carl's Jr. as the customer. Sounds good. Well, Presto is an AI classified startup company providing their automated solutions to fast food giants and chains with customers like Del Taco, Hardee's, Checkers, and obviously Carl's Jr., right? That one we already said. But if you start looking at the way that their executives talk about the service, something really strange happens. In late 2021, December to be precise, speaking to Karen Webster of a site called Payments, CEO of Presto, Rajat Raj Suri, had this to say, quote, "Our system actually takes over 95% of all orders without human intervention. We're about to announce the largest national rollout of this technology ever. It's going to be announced in early January. It's going to be with a big chain, and they're going all in on it." End quote. Sounds great, right? AI tech startup, the biggest rollout ever with a major partner. 95% of orders require no human intervention, which are very carefully chosen words, by the way. But we have to keep in mind that there is a very big difference in what the executives of a company like this are willing to say to the media compared to what they're willing to say when it's the SEC. Yeah, if you switch over and look at a Form 8K Presto Automation's November 16th, 2023 filing with the SEC, we find a very interesting statement. Quote, "As we continue to grow our Presto voice business, we are focusing on increasing the rate at which our solution successfully receives orders without the need for any human agent intervention, commonly referred to as humans in the loop. Currently, over 70% of orders taken by our Presto voice solution require human agent intervention. As we continue to improve our AI accuracy and further deploy Presto voice across store locations, we believe that the percentage of orders that do not require any human agent intervention will reach 30% or better." End quote. Let's get something straight here, okay? In 2021, Mr. Suri was telling the media that 95% of their orders are entirely AI processed. However, in 2023, his company was telling the SEC that less than 30% of their orders were automated. Over 70% required direct human intervention to make them accurate, and that the company was hopeful that they might achieve a less than 1/3 automation rate in the future. I'm not going to make any sort of definitive statements here, but that kind of feels like it might be outright fraud. Here's the hook. Speaking of fraud, we have another great example, this time from an AI e-commerce checkout company called nate.tech. Nate.tech is still online, though it probably shouldn't be. This is their website right here, advertising a supposed mobile application where all you have to do is click something and the entire order gets processed for you with an AI solution. It's a time saver. Once again, convenience is the selling point by avoiding the tedium of entering payment credentials, billing details, and personal information on whatever various platforms you shop under, which is very sensitive information, I might add. However, in April of 2025, handed down in the Southern District of New York, a fraud indictment became public, alleging, quote, "Albert Saniger defrauded investors with fabrications of his company's purported artificial intelligence capabilities while covertly employing personnel to satisfy the illusion of technological automation," end quote. That's already pretty succinct, and we have to remember here that there's a massive implication behind the process of giving payment details to a company and then having it not actually be an automated solution that processes your payment details, okay? There's a whole quagmire of problems there. But let me just read another paragraph for editorial emphasis, I'll call it. Quote, "Saniger used hundreds of contractors or purchasing assistants in a call center located in the Philippines to manually complete purchases occurring over the Nate app. In or about the fall of 2021, with the busy holiday shopping approaching, and despite his numerous prior representations that Nate did not use bots, or dumb bots as he referred to them, Saniger directed Nate's engineering team to develop bots to automate some transactions on the Nate app. After creating the bots, Nate used bots in addition to the manual teams to complete purchases that were purportedly being completed by AI technology, end quote. That is absolutely hilarious to me because it perfectly exemplifies a much larger than expected portion of the AI tech bro startup world. This CEO decided, let's make an AI application, and then failed to do so, instead using underpaid human workers in the Philippines, after which he returned to prior existing technology, which he had previously referred to as dumb, using a combination of those dumb bots and low-paid human workers, all for the purpose of impersonating an AI program. Oh, and the company attracted $51 million across 3 separate funding rounds. Let's get that straight. How about a recap? With just these 4 examples so far, billions of dollars in investment capital has been funneled into companies that would supposedly use AI to revolutionize app development, retail checkouts, e-commerce checkouts, and fast food ordering, all of which are substantial businesses. Builder.ai for the app development side was just a bunch of underpaid developers in India. Amazon's Just Walk Out technology, retail checkouts this time, now seems to be getting pushed out the door, no pun intended there, after allegations that instead of advanced machine learning, it was just overseas workers, also in India. Presto, the fast food delivery disruptor, if you want to call it that, is on record stating that 95% of orders have been successfully automated since 2021, but then quietly to the SEC clarifying that not even 1/3 of their orders have been automated in 2023, with all the rest requiring human intervention. And nate.tech, supposedly revolutionizing the e-commerce checkout process with artificial intelligence and major financial backers, was again really just a bunch of human workers, this time in the Philippines. Pretty fucking impressive industry we got going on here, guys. I want to end with this. I am fully aware of the dangers that AI automation can pose. I think there will be incredibly harsh consequences for a lot of companies, career fields, and white-collar workers especially. And I'm not sure what regulatory responses would be appropriate right now, or if an adequate response will even ever appear. But I do also understand that the industry is now unbelievably bloated. Artificial intelligence across multiple sectors is a lightning rod for multi-billion-dollar fraud schemes and self-enrichment of the highest order. The level of delusion being peddled widespread now, and subsequently eaten up by venture capital investment firms, among many others, is staggering. And even if the underlying technology does indicate massive upheaval in the future, the current state of the AI industry is a clear and obvious bubble. What we see today is unsustainable in any sense of the word when it comes to cash infusion, with a supermajority of all companies operating in the space destined for total failure, because nearly half of them, first of all, don't, as in don't operate in the space to begin with, that is, and the remaining portion, it's infested with outright fraud. In the end, AI is certainly a revolutionary technological concept when perfected or massively progressed, but the AI industry as it stands is just the next iteration of crypto, the dot-com bubble, or even Dutch tulip mania. 40% joke, 30% fraud, 20% I don't even know what's happening right now, and maybe 10% real, at best, maybe. That's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. A special VPN deal for anyone interested. Great one there. Locals and Patreon for monthly memberships, merchandise, social media, etc., etc. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching. Question everything, and have a nice night.